All aboard!
Welcome, all aboard with Conductor VIN friends, fans, and followers. I am Engineer Denise, the woman behind the Trains and Tunes podcast curtain. Today, we are very excited to premiere our newest Trains and Tunes podcast segment entitled Creation Station, in which we will be interviewing the creative minds that inspire our model train layouts. We are honored to have Mike Stan of the Altar Billies as our first guest on Creation Station. The Altar Billies are a pioneering rockabilly band out of Southern California. I would like to introduce you to the Trains and Tunes podcast host, Conductor Vin, and his resident tunes expert, music guru Greg. Now, let's tune into Creation Station. Conductor Vin, take it away.
Thank you so much, Engineer Denise. And you should also be called the digital guru for all that you do for this podcast. And as always, it's great to have music guru Greg with us. And Mike, like I said many times, I can't thank you enough for being here with us. So looking forward to carrying on a nice conversation with you.
My pleasure to be here, Conductor Vin and Greg and Engineer Denise. Thank you for that wonderful intro.
You got it. So we're gonna kick things off with some questions for you, and feel free to tell us some more about yourself and your background and your band. Take it away, Greg.
All right, thanks. All right, Mike, great to speak with you.
Hi, Greg.
Where did the concept for the Altar Billies come from?
Well, to look into the history of the Altar Billies, I really have to acknowledge the band I was in years ago called the Altar Boys in the 80s and the 90s. So we were a gospel punk alternative band here out of Southern California. We made 6 records. We toured around the nation. Like I told you earlier, I've been through Syracuse, Albany, up to Niagara, and everything in between. We stayed together for about 10 years, and we remained friends. So the band ended in 1992, basically took a hiatus, which brings us to the Altar Billies, okay? So one day I was in my church parking lot and saw this guy go through the parking lot with a Ramones shirt. I'm a big fan of the Ramones. Well, everybody's a fan of the Ramones. So I thought, well, I got to get to know this guy. Anybody's got a Ramones shirt on and going through the church parking lot. That's someone who I got to meet. Well, little did I know that his wife and my wife were already friends.
Wow.
So we got introduced back in about 2008. His son and my son were in the same classes together at the school, and his daughter and my daughter about the same age, and we became friends with John ever since. So to make a long story short, John was a musician, and he's one of the best musicians I just a guy that understands music, listens to a plethora amount of music, and really has a great musical sense about him. I lean on him a lot for a lot of the songs that I do. So we started just playing a little bit at some little Bible studies together, and he comes to me one day and says, you know, Mike, I know the history of all your music, and you've got a lot of twang to your music. And I looked at him like the RCA dog, like, what do you mean? Twang? Well, because you've got a lot of twang, I can tell, like a lot of rockabilly kind of early 50s roots influence. I went, uh-huh. So, you know, he goes, let me show you what I mean. So he did a little demo of one of our songs, Against the Grain, and he builded it up, and I listened to it and went, uh-huh, oh, yeah, that works. So we started working out a lot of the Altar Boys songs and building them up, and did a couple of little one-off gigs together, and said, you know, let's take this a little further. We're doing the songs of the Altar Boys. Let's call it the Altar Billies. Why not? That sounds good. Got a good ring to it. That works. So we started with that, but lo and behold, you know, as you know, I write songs. I started kind of writing again. I hadn't written for about 10 years or so. And I started writing these rockabilly, spaghetti western, country songs. And pretty soon, before you know it, we kind of had our own thing that we were doing. We started out with a drummer by the name of Chris Cummings, and he put up with me for about a year. Put up with me. You got to put up with me. And then we changed over to a longtime friend of mine, actually Chuck Cummings, and it's been the three of us ever since.
Wow.
And so we've been together for about 15 years now.
Wow. Great.
That's awesome. So, all right. So you just kind of mentioned. So my next question was the founding members. So, and you also mentioned you guys have been together about 15 years. So I think you covered that territory, unless you wanted to flesh it out anymore. But
well, I can say that when I met John, I was really introduced. I knew 50s music, and I loved it. I loved Chuck Berry, always loved Elvis, but I never took the deep dive into it. My musical background is very eclectic. I mean, I love everything from Beethoven to the Beatles to Jimi Hendrix to Grand Funk to Charlie Christian. I appreciate it all, pretty much. There's very few bands that I don't like or enjoy. So when Johnny made me tapes, I started looking, and with the internet, you can find so much information. I'm like, wow, there's more to Elvis than just Hound Dog. There's more to Eddie Cochran than just Summertime Blues. And I was digging into this stuff, and it's just so rich that it was like, where have I been? This is what I love. This is what I need to do. So I felt I was able to kind of reinvent myself in a cool way, even though I knew about it, but to be able to reinvent, and not a lot of people can do that. So I feel very fortunate.
well, you were kind of talking about the early 50s. So would you say that's really where your inspiration for the Altar Billies sound starts?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sun Records and everybody associated with the Nashville sound, Buddy Holly. Yeah, definitely.
Because I know you described the Altar Billies sound, pretty well, but the thing that's really interesting is, how do you capture that sound in the studio?
That's a good question. Well, I got to be honest with you. I got to describe our sound as more neo rockabilly. We can't play it like those guys did. Not many people can play it like those guys did. Brian Setzer can play it like those guys did and go beyond. So we're neo rockabilly in the sense of Robert Gordon was rockabilly, Reverend Horton Heat. I would say Stray Cats, Blasters, BR-49, and everything in between, kind of after the fact. I mean, those guys back then, they had a thing and they could do. So I'm going to be honest. We're rockabilly with a small R, more after the fact. Now, to capture the sound, we've recorded in different ways. We have recorded live. We've gone, lately we've been doing a lot of things where I do the basic recording here at home, and then bring Chuck, our drummer, and Johnny in later to do the overdubs with a particular thing in mind. But over the course of 15 years, we've gone in NRG studios and done a lot of things live, done things live in concert, recording some things. So it's all kinds of different ways we do it, whatever works. But there is something special about cutting up live like they used to do at Sun Records.
Yeah.
That's really the way you make records if you
Right.
do it.
Right, because you probably lose something, when you start overdubbing as opposed to just doing it all at the same time.
Well, yeah, but then again, I have to kind of, for lack of a better term, flesh these songs out a little bit, and figure out tempos. And those guys were out touring, figured it out, and a lot of times they did it right the first time, but a lot of times they had to come back and do it over and over and over and over again. So my leads are very planned out. I don't improvise a lot. It's like, that's the lead solo. So there's a lot to figure out. And then when you're talking about big bands like Bob Wills, who had all these different players, they had all the guys there. We try to keep our overdubs to a minimum, obviously, in True Blue. But like I said, I have a vision of us going back in live and want to go back into NRG and cut some things like we haven't done in a while.
Oh, great.
Well, we've done a lot of talking about music, so I'm gonna pick up on my topic only because that's kind of what brought us together. Your love of trains, obviously, the small ones which are sampled behind you. Also,
my big boy.
The big one.
Yeah, I got my big boy back here.
Yeah, love Union Pacific. So obviously, you guys are inspired by the big trains and the history of just like you're reaching back through the history of music, you're also reaching back through the history of trains. So tell us a little bit more about that, how that all comes together for you and for the band in general.
So I'm mainly the train guy, you know. Johnny is too. I think Chuck puts up with it. So you know, I just from a little boy just love trains. There's no rhyme or reason. People ask me, it's like, well, some people love golf, some people like soccer, some, you know, different things in life. And for me, it's always been trains. Even in the Altar Boys, when we were out touring, we go into a town. I'm like, hey, you know, everybody's got a train set out there. I mean, I came upon some people in Pennsylvania and some amazing collections, Lionel, and so, and you know, driving along, always like, okay, that's a look over there, you guys. That's a, you know, New York Central going by or whatever, you know. And it's something I've always just loved. So, you know, what is there not to like about trains, you know? And well, like I said, well, some spend their spare time on hobbies and interests and focus on cars and boats and football and soccer. I happen to love a good junk freight rolling down the line. That's what I love. And
Yeah.
as far back as I can remember, I've always been a huge train fan, even before I picked up a guitar. Now, as far as songwriting and starting to write songs, and that isn't something I developed till later. Actually, my first train song I wrote was in 1988 called "Ride This Train," and it was more of a Bo Diddley beat that we did with it. But it wasn't until actually 2013 that I wrote my first like real train song. Is when I discovered that they were going to restore the Big Boy, and that was in July of 2013. Now we've been 3 years together with the Altar Billies. We've been doing Orange Blossom Special and New River Train and Wabash Cannonball and different songs like that. So I thought, oh, how cool! Big Boy's gonna be restored. We got to find that Big Boy song, and we got to do it. There's got to be one out there. It's the biggest steam engine in the world. So I went on the internet and I looked, and guess what I found? Nothing. I thought, of all the nerve, no song about the biggest steam engine in the world. And I thought, duty calls. So I sat down at my kitchen table. I got all this information, and I just worked on it for about 2 weeks, came up with it. We recorded it here at home with my son. My son does a lot of engineering for me. He's records. He's a great engineer, and we put it out. The first version of it in August. We found some Big Boy footage. I have my sources, and then in October 2013, we actually got a chance before it was taken back to do some video on the 4014 one Sunday afternoon before Union Pacific took it over. So it's something I really did, and from there I just started writing Union Pacific Railroad, and then we were noticing like people like these train tunes, and they especially like the train tunes, the songs that we're not in, that are all just trains. So it just kept on. It kept on, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and some of these songs I couldn't believe I could do it, but I know what to look for as a train guy. You know, melodies come pretty easy for me, hooks come pretty easy for me. You know, lyrics take a while, but I know exactly what a train guy wants because I'm a train guy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's funny because you can go onto YouTube and we can, you can get a list of all of your train songs as a playlist. It's absolutely fantastic. You can hear one after the other.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, and I've got more to come. They're written, just waiting to
Great.
come out. So I've got a lot of work to do. They take me a while. So
And
I'm doing all the video editing. I'm doing the recording, writing, arranging, and I rely on a lot on. I have people I rely on. Johnny, I have my friend Rob who lives in the Washington D.C. area, and I go back and forth and I get input from them a little bit. Not too many people, but just a little bit to kind of, am I on the right track here? But yeah, there's quite a bit to go. I have a lot I have not done yet.
Great. And which vocalist has had the most impact on you in terms of what you're presenting with your band?
I'm a huge Carl Perkins fan.
Mm.
I just love. I think he was an amazing guitar player, a songwriter. He was a true original. He was on Sun, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
think he's severely underrated and underappreciated. He did it all, and he did it so well. And you can hear his influences, you know, as he adapted the rhythm and blues artists and gospel into music. But I'm a huge fan of Carl Perkins and his music. I mean, it wasn't Beatles. Paul McCartney said, the Beatles all said, you know, it wasn't for Carl, we wouldn't be together. For a while, even George Harrison changed his name to Carl Harrison. Played a garage, you know, played like Carl Perkins, you know, and Paul McCartney and Carl Perkins became great friends later on.
Right.
They recorded 3 Carl Perkins songs. The Beatles did with Carl Perkins' blessing. The Matchbox, Honey Don't, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. So Carl's the man.
Yeah. You're right about him being underappreciated. You know, it's like he was there. You know, with Elvis and Roy Orbison and all those guys, Jerry Lee Lewis, and then something he just didn't catch the break that some of the other guys did.
You know, he was more than just Blue Suede Shoes. He had some great songs. He was a great player, a great singer. But he said, you know, I've read his book about him, Blue Suede Shoes. If you haven't, it's terrific. He said, you know, I was just a guy picking cotton, and yeah, I had a big hit, but I've gone so far, more than I could ever even imagine, and a lot further than some of my friends had. So I'm thankful. In the end, Carl was very gracious. I never got a chance to meet him. A lot of my friends that are out here playing rockabilly did, and I regret that. I would have liked to have met him. He lived in Jackson, Tennessee, and you can go right to his house where he used to live and visit his gravesite and pay respects to him and his wife Valda.
Yeah.
But what a pioneer! What an
Yeah,
amazing.
but you're doing the next best thing. You're incorporating his spirit into your music. So
And we play a lot of Carl Perkins. Yeah, we play more Carl Perkins than anybody else, actually. With my doing, of course.
Yeah.
In December 1955, Carl Perkins was out picking cotton. And he was making records. He had released a few singles, but he was out picking cotton to get Christmas gifts for his family. January 1st, 1956, Blue Suede Shoes was released. A-side, B-side was Honey Don't. By the middle of March, he had a huge hit. He had no idea. And he skyrocketed up, and he was always a little bit embarrassed by it because it was such a humble guy. And then Elvis did Blue Suede Shoes right after Carl's accident as kind of a tribute to him. But a lot of people tribute Elvis Presley with Blue Suede Shoes, not giving the credence to Carl Perkins and the recognition he deserves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like with the Altar Billies, when you do your thing, you do your album and everything else, how do you gear up to do your performances? Like, for example, what do you have upcoming with the performances for your
I
band?
practice a lot.
Yeah.
I practice a lot. I always tell the guys, you and your upright bass, clickety clackety click, you can go off the rails. It's not, yeah, you go off the rails. And honk honk. I go, but if I mess up, we're gone, you know. So I spend a lot of time every day. Like I said, I don't have a motor home. I don't play golf. I don't even have a train set like you, Conductor Vin. They're all in the garage. I sit
Well,
on the Christmas
we're
tree.
gonna have to work on that.
So like, well, yeah.
Come over.
So
All you need,
we gear up by me making sure I know the songs, and then our tempos. It's like I got sometimes they get a little excited, and we got to kind of pull it back a little bit. So we're coming up in the middle of February. We're going out to Arizona to play the Rockabilly Reunion, a big festival. We don't tour that much just because we stay close to home. There's a lot to do, and I've toured a lot. I may get out this summer. We'll see. But we're going to Havasu, to play there. We've done it several times. A lot of fun, and maybe
Okay.
going out to Havasu in March. But pretty much we're sticking close to home. We have a lot of things coming up locally that we've done. We've done yearly a Carl Perkins tribute show. We might do it again this year. Not sure. It was a lot of work. So we always dash about 2 times a month for us, 2 or 3, depending on how we feel and what's going on. But then I'm recording in between, and that always takes me a long time.
Great.
And you're still doing your teaching, right? You're still teaching?
Yeah, I'm teaching. I'm actually going to be leaving the school district in May. I've been teaching for 30 years, and that's going to be tough because the kids know I love trains, and I have a little rockabilly group over there called the Wild Mustangs, and
Yep.
nobody in California kind of teaches that. We have an upright bass player, and this will be it kind of. So that's a whole other thing. Yeah, but everybody's like, what are you going to be doing with your time? I got plenty of things to do, trust me. So
Yeah.
instead of squeezing in between, I should have more time to be able to record the songs, the extra train songs that I've had sitting around for 5 years. In fact, Santa Fe, I wrote back in 2017. I just released it last year. That's how long it took me to get going with that. So,
All right. Well, more train songs and a real train layout. We're gonna be with you every step of the way, brother.
I'll borrow some stuff from my brother. He's got plenty.
You and your band.
Check a lot of the same boxes that what we're trying to do. It's all about friends, family, faith, community, country,
What it's about. Yeah.
family friendly, and that's the way I look at the hobby of trains. Trains, music. To me, it's just all interwoven. So let's keep that web of connection going.
That's cool to hear. Yeah, we need more of that. We need
Yeah,
more
especially
of that.
especially now more than ever.
Now more than ever, and that's what we play a lot of places called the Village of Hope, where people that are struggling are coming back from a lot of addictions and things like that here in Tustin. And a lot of churches. I mean, we're open to almost anything, and there's a good little rockabilly community here. Now, I got to tell you one thing, though, before we go.
Yes.
About my class. You asked about my teaching, all right? You know what I have going by one of my classrooms? I have a Union Pacific branch line going by one of my classes. Can you believe that? It goes by every Monday and Wednesday. And you know what I make the kids do that are in my class? It comes at different times. They stand up and they salute the train.
Oh.
Back to
That's
train.
awesome.
And
awesome.
they all know that's Engineer Pete who runs it, and I hold out a sign. It's called LOA 32, and I have a little song I teach them, but they respect the train.
That is excellent, as it should be.
As I pass it on, yeah. You salute. Why do we salute the train? Because that's what you do when the train goes by. You salute it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, yeah.
If you head even a little bit eastward, let us know.
I know. All right.
Well,
I've had fun.
we have a few more seconds, so I want to thank you for all the time you spent with us today. It has been fantastic.
Well,
Yeah,
we got a good
definitely,
laugh,
we
right?
definitely want to get back with you, Mike. Even if it's just a chat, doesn't necessarily have
Anytime.
to be for a podcast. But we like I said, we love what you're doing, and I would love to be one of your unofficial consultants when you build that layout.
I may buy someone's layout. You can find them for sale. That kind of like you're getting rid of them. So I'll be honest with you.
Oh yeah, there's always deals. I've done little blurbs about that.
I know you have. I saw
Yeah.
you reading Railroad.
Oh,
Saw
yeah.
them locomotives.
Oh yeah, that video's coming real soon.
Yeah.
Aw.
You get busy. So
Yeah, thanks,
well,
Mike.
thank you. It's been a pleasure too.
Driving the pass of El Cajon, traveling on my way back home. You see, See, I live down Barstow Way, drive this highway every day. Out of the corner of my eye, caught a freight train going by, winding through the steep terrain, slowly climbing up the grade. 6 diesels in yellow and gray, primary colors of UP. 2 miles long, maybe more, creeping along the desert floor. Railroad cars of every size, moving down that main line. Then came a very big surprise when the last car rolled on by, expecting to see that cupola. Red flashing light was all I saw. I guess I never heard the news. Whatever happened to the caboose?
All aboard!